Hey, what's up guys? Today we're going to be talking about 7 of the best weapon combinations in Lies of P. Now I did try to cover a wide variation, didn't really want to talk about the same type of weapon combination over and over again. Now if you did want to know about the boss weapons, I do have a whole dedicated video ranking every single one of them, so you can check that one out. I'll link it down below. Now there are plenty of different types of weapon combinations in this game, so I probably haven't really covered every single little one. So if you do have your own findings as to what you consider to be the best or whatever you think that's actually really good, just let me know down in the comments. Just to let you guys know, this list is not in any particular order. Every single one of these builds is just as good as one another. So if you actually haven't decided on a build yet, just pick the one that looks the coolest to you because they're all really good. But yeah, that out the way, let's just get started. Starting off, I want to talk about the Salamander Dagger Blade alongside the Acidic Crystal Spear Handle. Now this is going to be more of an advanced type build, as the handle does actually offer an A scaling in advance, and when you put an advanced crank onto it, you actually can bump it up to an S scaling, which is really nice. Now this is going to pair very well with the Salamander Dagger Blade, as it does get that innate fire damage, so actually we'll end up proccing the overheat even quicker, and the Fable Art Ignite will also do the exact same thing. Now another good thing about the handle, it gets a very solid moveset as a bunch of quick poking attacks, so you can pair it alongside the Armor of God to just constantly get a bunch of damage really quickly. And the handle Fable Art single stab, although it does consume 3 slots and actually does have a longer charging animation, it does actually have some nice range and do some very good damage in one hit. Now the downside to the blade is that you cannot actually buff it with any type of elemental abrasive or grindstone. So the grindstone to pair it alongside with would be the destruction grindstone to just get more stagger damage, but you definitely want to be utilizing different types of elements like electric and acid throughout your playthrough. So if you go up against puppets, I would just recommend using the coil stick head, and if you go up against humans, I would recommend using the acidic crystal head. But if you didn't want to actually level up 2 different types of weapons, you could actually go with the Tyrant Blade, as this one is still just a dagger, so it's still going to have a very quick moveset, actually does get some critical damage, and obviously you can actually buff it with any type of grindstone. But with how light and quick this weapon actually is and how much damage you can output, it definitely is going to be one of the better options. Next up, I want to talk about the Bone Cutting Saw Blade alongside the Military Shovel Handle. Now this is just a very long boy. The blade itself, the Bone Cutting Saw Blade, does actually have some very nice damage, obviously really good range, does actually get a pretty decent Fable Art that's actually very quick, and the follow-up attack just makes it do enormous amounts of damage, and it also gets about 70% of damage reduction rate while guarding. So needless to say, this blade is one of the best in the entire game. It will actually pair well with almost every single handle, especially all the ones that you'll see on this list. But we're going to pair it alongside the Military Shovel Handle, which also gets amazing range. And its Fable Art is Alter, which extends the range even further. So you basically have this ridiculously long pole that can just hit things very hard, which is very fun to do, might I add. Now the moveset itself is actually pretty decent. You have some very solid variety. Obviously isn't going to be the quickest thing in the world because it is a larger weapon, but the light attack combo is a nice horizontal swipe, which yes, you can run the risk of actually deflecting your weapon off a wall, but that's perfectly fine because the heavy attacks is a nice poke, and when charged, actually is a nice vertical swipe that actually is very quick and does enormous amounts of damage. And this handle does get a C scaling in both motivity and technique, so you actually can pair it alongside any type of build, just use a motivity or technique crank, and you'll be perfectly fine. Next on the list, we have the Big Pipe Wrench Head with the Krat Police Baton Handle. Now you might have seen this combination a bunch before because it's just really powerful. You can just do so much damage in one hit with this bad boy. It's just that good. Now, the Wrench Head does actually have amazing damage, gets almost 74% damage reduction while guarding, and its Fable Art does ridiculous damage, especially when fully charged. You can destroy so many things in this game very quickly with this bad boy, and pairing it alongside the Krat Police Baton Handle with its Fable Art Strike Chance does boost the damage of your next hit by roughly like 70%, so you can just get even more damage in one hit when you pair it alongside this handle. It's just ridiculous. Now the moveset that you get with this handle, I'm not too big of a fan of with its light attack combo because it kind of stops halfway, so there's a lot of times where you end up just missing, but its heavy attacks are very quick, which is obviously nice to have because you end up just staggering enemies a lot quicker. And it is a motivity based handle, so you actually can get some very nice stagger damage with its heavy attacks anyway. But just the stats on this weapon alone is just ridiculous. Look at all the damage that it gets, the Fable Charge, Pulse Cells stat, it's just ridiculous. Next, we have the Pistol Rock Drill Blade with the Tyrant Murderer's Dagger Handle. Now, this is just another case of having a high damaging blade alongside a quicker handle, because that's kind of just going to be the meta in this game. But in this instance, we have the Pistol Rock Drill Blade, which is a very nice weapon that gets critical rates. Now, critical rate is basically a chance of which you can actually just do bonus damage with one of your hits. In this case, is a 30% chance to get 50% more damage. Now, this weapon's Fable Art is Grind, of which actually further improves the critical rate chance by an additional 30%. And you can pair this build alongside the Assassin's Amulet, which actually does boost your critical rate damage by 25%. So the way to actually look at it is that you have a 60% chance to do 75% more damage with every single hit. So we're going to pair this alongside a quicker type of handle, of which just hits enemies really quickly. So you basically have a very good chance of just always having that critical hit damage up. And you can pair this alongside the Arm of God amulet to just get a bunch more damage. And just keep spamming those light attacks and those charged heavy attacks as well, because that is hit multiple times, which obviously just only benefits. Now the Fable Art of the hilt is quick stab, although I don't really care for it much. It is very low risk as it's a very quick attack. You can't really go wrong. Is it relatively cheap as well? And it is just decent damage in one hit, so it actually can pair nicely with the Conqueror's amulet also. Now you might be thinking to pair this alongside the Satisfaction Grindstone, but there isn't much of a benefit to further improve the critical rate damage. You would much be better off going into the Elemental Grindstones, as I did mention in my Grindstone video. You just benefit way more. But basically this entire build is just trying to get as much Fable Art as you can, constantly use grind to just do a bunch of damage, spam those light attacks and charged heavy attacks, and you'll be perfectly fine. Now next is the Electric Coil Stick head and the Booster's Glaive handle. Now the Electric Coil Stick is a very popular weapon because you get it really early on. It does innate electric damage, so it's extremely good against puppets. Now unfortunately you actually cannot buff this with different types of elements. So once you end up fighting things like carcasses and humans, you don't really have access to fire or acid damage in this instance. So I do recommend switching to a different head for those types of situations. Probably something like the Great Sword of Fate or the Pipe Wrench head. Both of those can perform extremely well. But if you didn't want to do that, you can still find plenty of success with the Electric Coil Stick head, because shock damage still performs well against everything. They just make them take more stagger damage, which is really nice. And you can proc shock really quickly with this weapon, because its Fable Art to generate just adds even more electric blitz damage. Now we're going to pair this alongside the Booster's Glaive handle, which is a nice technique based handle, which does get a relatively quick light attack combo. But definitely the selling point of this is going to be those charged heavy attacks, which make you just yeet yourself from one side of the arena to the other. And this is going to be extremely good in a game like this because you don't really have longer openings, so having something that can close the distance really quickly can trivialize a whole bunch of enemies and bosses. So the way I like to use it is just spam a whole bunch of charged heavy attacks, and you actually end up getting some decent stagger damage along the way, and you can pair it alongside the Destruction Grindstone, because being that you can't really use any of the elemental grindstones, it can actually make for a very nice pairing. The Fable Art's Patient Slash, when fully charged, can also do very good damage and have a very nice lunge, although it is better to be using it at point blank range, being that it does hit multiple times in that area. But if you did feel like that range was a problem throughout your playthrough, I would recommend picking up this handle right here, because those heavy attacks does actually work wonders. Now next up we have the Live Puppets Axe Blade with the Puppets Saber handle. Now this bad boy blade right here takes up your entire screen to where you can't really see anything half the time, but thankfully the damage is just outright ridiculous, and the damage reduction rate when guarding is like closer to 78%, which is just ridiculous, definitely the highest in the entire game. And its Fable Art Killer Attack does actually get some very nice damage very quickly. So this definitely can get some of the highest damage in the entire game with just one hit. So once again, being that it's larger and heavier, we're going to pair it alongside a quicker type of handle. Now in this instance, we're going to pair it alongside the Puppet's Saber handle, which gets a very solid combo. Nice horizontal swipe, so that's light attack. Its charge heavy is actually a very nice double swipe. Now this moveset is very similar to the Dancer's Blade, which honestly I might prefer the Dancer's Blade a little bit more. And the fact that it actually does get guard parry with the Dancer's Blade means that it can perform a lot better. But if you're a person that cannot land guard parry for the life of you, this can actually be a very decent alternative, because this handle's Fable Art is Concentrate, to which boosts your damage by about 15% for like 15 seconds, which obviously is really nice to have throughout a fight, because you're going to stack it with your other buffs and just melt everything really quickly. But if you do know how to use guard parry, I would just recommend using the Dancer's Blade instead. But either way, you can't really go wrong, because you can get very solid damage out of this combo right here. Now the last weapon of which I want to talk about is the Black Steel Cutter Blade alongside the Dancer's Curved Sword handle. Now the Black Steel Cutter Blade is a very solid blade, does actually get some nice range, very solid damage, good damage reduction while guarding as well. And its Fable Art Storm Slash does actually hit multiple times, can do some nice damage output and do that nice overheat buildup. Now being that it does get the innate fire damage, unfortunately you cannot buff it with different types of elements. So it's going to be really good at killing humans and carcasses, but unfortunately against puppets you're probably better off using something like the Electric Coil head. Or you could just use the Bone Cutter as well. Now any of those things can actually work, because we're going to pair it alongside the Dancer's Curved Sword handle, which is going to be one of the better, if not the best handle in the entire game, because it gets a very solid moveset, especially with those heavy attacks fully charged. Gets some really good range, really solid damage. And its Fable Art is a guard parry, which is just the best damage to Fable charge ratio in the entire game, because it only consumes one slot and does really good damage. Now unfortunately it would actually require you to just get off a very well timed parry. Now if trying to get the guard parry was hard for you, I would recommend just going with the Puppet's Saber handle, as I mentioned before, because it gets a very similar moveset, but you just get Concentrate as its Fable Art instead. But one other benefit that the Dancer's Curved Sword handle does get is that it has a better scaling. It gets a B scaling in technique and a C scaling in motivity, compared to the Puppet Saber C scaling in both. So the fact that it gets an amazing moveset, you get very good damage, good overheat buildup, decent range, good Fable charge, very solid Fable Art as well. Both blade and handle are very good options. Anyway, that pretty much concludes it for this one. As always, please do like and subscribe because I do have some more Lies of P videos coming along the way. And do follow me on Twitch because I am live there every single day doing some challenge runs of all the Souls games. So yeah, see you next one, guys. Bye.